You could be on the verge of a breakup right now, or if looking back at your life and have had breakup after breakup after breakup, or had bad first date after bad first date, or short stints. Sometimes there's two ways a person learns in relationships. They maybe get lucky and they meet someone early on who they're really aligned with, or quite honestly, what I've seen, sometimes people don't know themselves well enough and they meet someone else who doesn't know themselves well enough and they just stay together for 40 years. And sometimes I can think of one couple, they just had alignment at 18 years old. What I've found, if you can learn through being with someone for 50 years, or you can learn through being in a relationship, not being in a relationship, being in it and out, and then ending up picking someone who you're really aligned with, that you actually needed those experiences. That it actually really served your heart and soul to know who to break up with, who to say no to, or who you got dumped by, in order to know who you needed to say yes to. And it can be or feel unfortunate or heavy that you had to go through all this stuff, all these breakups, but it can be part of your process. It's funny, especially for us as guys, how we think life can just be like a straight line. Like I want to go from here to here, but not seeing the magic, the necessary pain, the learning. I don't know about you, but I can think back and remember back to previous relationships where I can think of I'll be 41 in 6 months. I can think of one when I was 29 that was by far the best thing I had back then. And I was totally not ready, even though I thought I was. And we had a decent amount of alignment, but we definitely needed different things. But I just didn't know. And what if whatever you've went through, whatever pain you've had in relationships, that God, the universe, source, your unconscious mind, whatever you want to call it, actually was just queuing everything up to give you what you needed. Even though it seemed to suck. If you lost money, had cheating, breakups, tried this, tried that, monogamy, polyamory, open relationships, you went down that road. I have learned a lot, that you actually needed all those experiences. I remember back many years ago, and I didn't understand at the time, I had many years ago, when I'd taken drugs recreationally, I would take MDMA. That was my favorite. I really didn't do that, smoke some weed. And I'd read about it being used in like a ceremonial use, medicinal use. Personally, I don't think MDMA is a medicine because it's chemical. However, I do think it can be used for healing, even though it's not used that way the most of the time. But if you look at organizations like MAPS, they use what are the big ones? LSD, MDMA, and mushrooms on their healing journeys. And I was just thinking about this earlier, and I put my phone away, turned my computer off, apartment's all clean. I was living on this apartment up on the hill. Everything was green up there, overlooking the city. Kind of feeling like I was out of the city. And I just sat there and looked over the city. And I'll never forget, that was the message I got over and over. Like, kind of like you need to go through this process. So I was like, shit. This is quite a while ago, years ago. You need to know who to say yes or who to say no to in order for you to know who to say yes to. And I've had a few of these, especially with ayahuasca, maybe, I don't know, less than half a dozen with the different ceremonies over the years, but where a phrase is over and over, like it's really sure it's gonna burn it in my brain. And I've only done a couple of these MDMA ceremonies. I did that, and I did one alone after a breakup. But it was that over and over. You need to know who to say no to in order to know who to say yes to. I was talking to a guy recently, a client, and in the last, 2-3 months, he'd went on, 4 or 6 different first dates, and let's call it 5. 4 of them, none of them went bad, but a few of them he noticed, he's like, man, I'm like unusually anxious. And then one of them was like, okay. And then the last one was like phenomenal. Like way different than all the other ones combined. And he's like, this date was better in 20 minutes than the other girls who I went out with for a few hours. And it makes you think that, what if things were a bit more simple than you think they are? If you've ever done eye gazing or been to like a tantra event, sometimes you do these exercises where you walk around and just look at people. You'd be shocked at what you can learn or feel, sense, intuit. Something can be just something primal in you. And is it always accurate? Honestly, no, because someone can just be really like, you have a weird tattoo and it reminds them of you, or you remind them of their ex or their uncle or their dad or whatever it is. But you can get a lot of information in a short period of time. And something in you just knows. You can look at it a couple different ways. You can look at it, your heart senses it, especially if you're really connected to that. Or your nervous system, you just feel good or you feel uplifted. Or if you've ever been around the kind of person that when they walk in the room, it feels kind of like a rain cloud walked in the room. Like it just feels like heavy, like, nice to meet you. Or someone else, they walk in the room. I was thinking of my friend Victoria, and it's just like sunshine. Something in your energetic field, something in your nervous system, something in your heart, maybe all the above, depending on how connected you are with yourself at this point, it already knows. So whatever you've needed to go through up until now, what if you were able to see into the future and know that that was like divinely perfect just for you? As much as it sucked, the breakups, or you're about to have a breakup, or you've been cheated on, that you actually needed those experiences to know who you are and who you're becoming and what you really want. Because it can be kind of an annoying thing about life or about relationships. It's not necessarily true, but it really helps to clarify what you want by knowing what you don't want. And you can have a plan for life, for your business, for your relationship. And then you can have 1 or 2 things that are out of whack and go, oh yeah, this is totally not gonna work. Or no, you know what, I wanna be like a nice guy, I wanna be a pleaser, let me try to do so-and-so, such and such. Let me try to this. You know what, I thought I needed this in a relationship, but yeah, maybe I don't. I can just, I don't know, do I really need that? We try to be overly accommodating. Big difference between being kind and being the nice guy. But oftentimes, in order to know what we want, we need to go through some of what we don't want. So people in high school and college, they fall in love, and they think that's gonna be forever, and you don't know how I feel, and it's just we don't have that much life experience yet. So I invite you to consider whatever you're going through, and maybe you're going through a breakup, or maybe you're in a breakup and you actually needed that breakup in order to get back with that person, or you needed that scuffle or that fight, or that you setting a boundary and them being kind of pissed at you and going, are we gonna break up? That you actually needed that to have more clarity and to tighten things up in your life. Life's not so simple. Life's not so black and white. It's not as much of a straight line as we think. Relationships are often like a dance, like dancing salsa. Some songs are fast, some songs are slow. We need to know how to lead, yet make her feel safe, while simultaneously she has a level of freedom. Or we can just get beat up on the dance floor. In order to know what you want, you need to go through some of what you don't want. Part of life. You'll figure it out.